A lot of President Trump's economic policy ideas have come from one man. Stephen Moore is a conservative economist and writer who advised the Trump campaign. Moore was in Fort Lauderdale today, taking part in the Sunshine and Politics Speaker Series at the law firm Tripp Scott. I sat down with Moore to talk about the economy and South Florida and asked if he has any concerns about this Senate budget bill, which, if passed, would add to the deficit.
Look, I'm not excited about this budget deal. I think it's a good thing that we're not going to run against the debt limit, and it's a good thing that we're not going to shut down the government. But, you know, you're right. We are spending too much money, and we're $300 billion over the next 2 years over the spending caps. So I do have a problem with that. And it's bipartisan spending spree. The Democrats want to spend more money on social programs. The Republicans want to spend more money on defense, so they spent more money on both. Right. And, you know, when you have a $20 trillion national debt, you have to start wondering whether we can continue to spend like this.
And President Trump and Republicans have added to that national debt. I mean, the tax cut plan that was passed at the end of the year tacked on another $1.5 trillion. I mean, that's got to drive you crazy in a way.
Well, look, I was one of the architects of the tax plan, so I'm going to defend it and say this, that I really do believe you're seeing tremendous economic benefits from that already. Some 4 million Americans are getting bonuses and pay raises in just the first month. And we really believe that this will make the economy healthier, lead to more jobs, and ultimately that's how you get the debt down, is putting more people into jobs and bringing businesses back to America. You saw Apple bringing $300 billion back to the United States. So our hope is that this will create a lot of prosperity, and when you get prosperity, you get more tax revenues.
Well, I want to ask you about South Florida because here the real estate market is booming. You've seen the cranes, I'm sure, here in Fort Lauderdale and other places in South Florida. A lot of it is due to foreign investments. Real estate prices are going up and up. And they're squeezing the average local here in South Florida, the person that works in the service industry, which is really the main driver of the economy here in South Florida. Their wages are not keeping up with the cost of living. What do you do about that?
Well, first of all, it's always better to live in an area that's booming rather than a place that's declining. I mean, during the campaign, we went to a lot of places like Newark, New Jersey, or Milwaukee, or some of these cities that are declining, and that's a really depressing thing. I mean, it's really wonderful to see the boom that's going on in South Florida. You're one of the fastest growing areas of the country. Miami has become the capital of South America. It's a fantastic thing to see. I think that's in no small part because you have no income tax. You're a very pro-business state. So yeah, well, that growth does cause challenges for people. What I would like to see is higher wages for those workers so they can afford to rent an apartment or buy, hopefully purchase a home. We'll see if that happens. But look, if people want a job, the place to come is South Florida. There's so much construction going on, and I can't believe the Miami skyline these days. It's just an incredible thing to see.
South Florida is home to so many people who've come here from other countries. Immigration reform, the so-called dreamers, that's a very hot topic here in South Florida and, of course, other parts of the country. Is there an economic argument to be made in being more inclusive when it comes to immigration as opposed to trying to lower the number of people?
Oh, we need the immigrants. We need them. The economy is growing. One of the biggest problems when I go throughout the country, not just South Florida, but just about anywhere, employers are saying we don't have the skilled workers. We don't have the people who are willing to, not just necessarily the skilled workers, but even you go to, places that need, service workers or need people working in agriculture. We have a severe shortage of people working in the fields today. So I believe, my own feeling is, if immigrants want to come into this country and work and make a better life for themselves, absolutely, we want them, but they have to come legally. And I'm all for some kind of program for the dreamers, but we also have to make sure that in the future, the immigrants who come in here come in lawfully and not illegally.
Stephen Moore, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again. And for more on the stock market and the possible government shutdown, get the free CBS Miami News app. It's very easy to find. Go to your app store and search for CBS Local. And then once you download that, scroll down to Miami, and we'll send you an alert tonight if there is any government funding deal.